This video is brought to you by a huge mountain of drugs. Miirym vs Varina, Gisa and Geralf, and Edgar Markov. Bunch of tribal decks by the looks of it, and yeah, we have a bunch of ramp and can refill our hand with a time twister, so quite a perfect hand for us that. Seeing a turn 1 play from the Esper Varina player, Ajani's welcome. Alright, and we see an Utvara Hellkite, so I'm glad I'm seeing all the ramp into the time twister here. Not turn 1 play for us either. Curate from Gisa and Geralf. Surveil 2, then draw a card. And the first zombie from the zombie player is Miirym Zombie. 2, sacrifice a creature. Target player is drained for 1. And there is a Verdant Catacombs for us. We'll go for the mountain first. And let's get down our Tricycle land with the Farseek, because that does bring in a tap land. And we do like to get down our tap lands first, so that we don't draw them later when we're desperate for another piece of mana. And then we go straight through the other 2 players and over to a Graph Harvest, coming from the zombie player, so now a 1-3 with Menace in play, which does decide to sit back. Alright, and a Dockside Extortionist might be useful next turn if we're going to go for the Time Twister. There's only 2 enchantments in play at the moment though, so we'll try and hold off on it. It is a 3 visits first of all, and we'll grab ourselves a blue source with that in the form of Tropical Island. Then it can be the Nature's Law, and we could get in an untapped land here, get another untapped land with the Fetch, and go for Dockside for 2 mana. That means that we've got 8 mana for next turn, but I think we're fine waiting through the turn cycle here, so let's just get down our Shock lands in tapped. Do the same with the Verdant Catacombs here. Molten Echoes obviously names Vampire for Edgar Markov, and now an Undead Warchief. That will act as some ramp, and it is an Anthem effect for the zombie army as well. And now we see the first commander of the game, Varina Lich Queen, into play, and we get hit by the Miirym Zombie, so that will trigger the commander, and we'll keep an eye on the graveyard to see what ends up in there. That is a Scarab God, so maybe assume that they've got some means of reanimation. So we can give them some graveyard hate in the form of Time Twister. Was hoping to see some more artifacts and enchantments there. We did see another one in Molten Echoes, of course, but yeah, in these colours I'd expect to see more rocks in order to ramp. There is an opportunistic dragon which only steals a human. Not likely to see many humans this game. Alright, so let's just do this. Let's go for the Dockside Extortionist, and that will net us a mana, as well as putting a body into play. And then I think we're fine to go for the Time Twister at this point. Our 2 opponents here have 6 cards in hand. There were only 3 or 4 cards here, so this player did go up quite a bit, but maybe the Scarab God not being in the graveyard messes them up. Okay, we've got Fierce Guardianship to protect our commander. Did get into a land, so we can play that. And I think we just go after Heuristic Study whilst people are struggling on mana, so we'll use one of the treasures in order to do that. Still no vampires from the vampire player. Stentia Masquerade. Attacking creatures you control have first strike and plus counters with vampires as well. Yes, we will be happy to draw a card to the Heuristic Study. Gets into another dragon in the Broodmother. Alright, and that's a scary one. I tend to like to drop this into a bunch of other vampires, so at the very least we can steal something from our opponents, because this thing will eat removal in no time flat. We get to draw another card, so Heuristic Study has already done its job. Allows us to play a land next turn in Mana Confluence. Edgar Markov obviously gets a token from the casting of the Cap Vamp. Molten Echoes makes a token copy of the Captivating Vampire. And the 3-3 swings in towards us. Don't know if it's relevant that we've got Dockside in the bin. I'll wait to block with something more strong than a 3-3. But yeah, we have to be wary of the fact that if they get down another vampire next turn, they will be able to start stealing things straight away with the Captivating Vampire, because they'll have a token from their commander and then a token copy of whatever they've cast. The token only lasting until the end of the turn though, they do have to exile that. Okay, once again our opponents are just playing into this Heuristic Study. They're not willing to slow down at all, unfortunately for them. So we're getting lots of card draw, a Cloudstone Curio. I'm just debating whether to go for a Tooth and Nail on the Mystical Tutor at this point. Disciple of Deceit from the Esper player. And we are finally seeing someone do the right thing in paying into the Heuristic Study. So do not draw another card from the Disciple. More life gain being made by the Ajani's welcome though. Alright, and a pretty classic combo piece. That is a Mind Crank, so Yeah, definitely have to be wary of that. We've got removal for it in the form of Beast Within. And now the 4/4 with Menace goes in at the other zombie player. Only room at the table for one zombie player apparently. We get the gnawing zombie again. So that's 2 creatures attacking. We'll trigger the Varina. And deciding to discard a couple of lands. We will mill 1, and the other zombie player is going to mill 4, which won't necessarily be detrimental to him. A lot of zombie decks care about reanimation, and Gisa and Geralf is probably one of them. So the mill comes off the Mind Crank. Like I said, it's 1 to me and 4 to Gisa and Geralf. Gets rid of a land off the top of our library. Luckily we've got one to make for next turn. Now, do we go Mystical Tutor into Sky Shroud Claim? Because I'm thinking we might have to go for the Cloth's Will and maybe wipe the board. Cloth's Will with our commander in play would be ideal though, but the problem is it can probably be stolen by the Cat Vamp next turn. Can always blow that up with the Beast Within though, if they decide to get down another creature into this thing, and that will allow us to hold up the Cloth's Will with our commander in play hopefully, so yeah, I'll forego the Mystical Tutor for now. There is a Reflecting Pool. I'll get that down over the Mana Confluence because we don't take any life to it. We've definitely got our Temur colours. So down comes our commander. We are going to have to discard a couple of cards to hand size, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe just go for the Beast Within onto the Captivating Vampire now so that we don't have to discard. I think that's alright. Could even go for the Mystical Tutor so that again we don't have to discard anything. The Black Market will trigger, putting the first counter on that, so they'll get at least some mana. Yeah, we've got protection on the Ward and the Fierce Guardianship, so I think I'm fine just getting rid of this. And we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 and 9 mana available to us, so we could go for the Tooth and Nail just for the fun of it. Don't necessarily have to cast it next turn. It's not necessarily the most intelligent play, should probably go for Return of the Wild Speaker or Rishkar's Expertise, but I'll do Tooth and Nail because it's more fun. Alright, we see Olivia Voldaren, which is another means of stealing things away. They don't have the mana for it at the moment, thankfully. Paying, or not paying, into the Rhystic Study, so Tooth and Nail being drawn for us. So if the Captivating Vampire was still in play, they would have had 3, 4 and 5 vampires there, so could have stolen away. They've got the 2 mana for the Ward onto our commander, so could have stolen it away. Hence the reason that we got rid of the Captivating Vampire. The legendary copy of the Olivia went down there, so another counter on the Black Market. And yeah, they're forgetting about the Ward, dealing 1 damage to the Miirym, and that will get countered. So they are going after trying to steal it, but that was a waste of their 2 mana, unfortunately. They would have been much better off going after the Undead War Chief or maybe Varina. So Black Market. Triggering for the first time for Gisa and Geralf will make 2 mana. Noteworthy there is a Castle Loch Thwain in play as well, but they've got a full grip at the moment. Doubt they'll be making use of that. Now we see Glimpse the Future. Look at the top 3 cards, wanting to hand the rest in the graveyard. Looks like we're going to be drawing a Rhystic Study card again. So that gets us into another land that we don't have to put life into. So let's see what's in the bin here. There's an Apprentice Necromancer, some lands including a Nykthos, and a Razorlash Transmigrant. Oh, and this is another one I've wanted to play with. Headless Rider for the zombie player. Yeah, the Dimir Precon from that set, Wilhelt is it called? The commander is not available on Magic Online, which is infuriating because I absolutely love that commander and can't play it on this channel for some reason. I did hope that Daybreak were going to be allowing us to run a lot of these commanders that aren't being available online, but it's too much for them to keep up with apparently. Either that or Wizards are telling them not to bother with certain sets on Magic Online. Sanguine Bond for the Varina player, so yeah, combos galore in this deck. Foulmire Knight being played into the Rhystic Study as well, so yeah, I haven't drawn so many cards off this enchantment in a very long time. Seeing that Rishkar's Expertise now. Alright, there's a Sol Ring for us, so that is easily coming down here. Play the Haven of the Spirit Dragon. Forest can be a Sol Ring. And why don't we just go for the Tooth and Nail? We've still got the counter magic backup. I imagine our opponents are pretty salty towards us as it is anyway. So might as well just go all in. And that will allow us into Utvara Hellkite is fine, I think. And where are we? I want the Goldspan Dragon as well for some ramp, and we can swing in with that this turn. Although Old Gnawbone would be a good idea, wouldn't it, if we're going to be making treasures. So yeah, let's go Old Gnawbone and the Goldspan Dragon. And then with Miirym, for some reason, it's an ETB, so we get copies of these. So at Goldspan Dragon, it's the combo player that I'm worried about here. As good as our board is at the moment, we are facing off against a combo player, so they could win out of nowhere, especially with tutors and things. So let's hold back our 7/7s and go in with the Goldspans, each of which will make a treasure token, and each of the treasures taps for 2 mana, of course. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty one-sided one by the looks of it, unfortunately. Just for the sake of transparency, when I made this game, I said don't try too hard, no mass land destruction, etc. Now that's a pretty ambiguous term for making a game, which I do understand, but I don't know what the hell else to do in order to make fair games in which everyone brings equal power levels to the table. I joined a casual game where someone else was the host previously, it just said casual, so joined it and saw mass land destruction in that game, so yeah, really not sure what to do. Sometimes I'm just going to have games where I go off on my opponents. Not that it's over yet, but it's looking pretty likely. So seeing as how we don't have haste yet, let's get some of these dragons down, and we'll attempt to start knocking players out next turn. Throw down the Utvara Hellkite. We've obviously made all these treasures from the old Gnawbones, and the fact that we just dealt 14 damage to my opponent. So Utvara Hellkite gets a copy thanks to Miirym, and each of the treasures taps for 2 mana thanks to the Goldspan Dragon we've got in play. Play out a Dragon Broodmother, so we're going to start making dragon tokens. 2 dragon tokens at the beginning of every single upkeep, and I'm only doing this not to dunk on my opponents, but because we don't have haste like I said, so we need to get these down now, ready for attacking in next turn. I'll try my best not to use the Cyclonic Rift, or even the Cloth's Will, because I don't want to give them too rough a time. But at the same time, viewers of the channel don't want me going easy on my opponents, so it's it's an impossibility really. So there you go, the first triggers on the Dragon Broodmother. Not going to bother with Devour. Bishop of Binding now. Exile the target creature an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. So they could go after the Miirym here. Going to get a token with the Markov, of course. Drew us into a Terror of the Peaks, so yeah, these two players just consistently not paying into the Rhystic Study has just completely fed us into all this stuff. This is, okay, one of the rare vampires that does not have flying, so we could, if they go after the Miirym, we could go Cloth's Will and still get rid of that thing. See what they target first. Molten Echoes could make another copy of it. Alright, so Bishop of Binding goes after Old Gnawbone. That is fine with me. We've already done the damage on that. They get another copy of the Bishop. This is some nice tech by the vampire player. So going after the token copy of the Old Gnawbone. Like I said, we've done the damage now, so we'll just allow that. Depending on what this player does, if he gets anywhere close to a combo with that Sanguine Bond or the Mind Crank, I might just go for the Cloth's Will whilst our commander is in play. And that might get us closer to getting off a win next turn. I don't think we're going to win next turn, but might be able to knock a player or two out. Olivia Voldaren now going to ping the Utvara Hellkite. They don't have the mana to steal it away, so I'll let them do that for now. Noteworthy that they could do that at the end of our turn. There's not much point in doing it now, I don't think. And again, our opponent's not learning, going for Olivia onto the Miirym, so that's Ward 2 again. Seems as though I've only really been able to do all this because I was able to ramp, which is the massive upside of green. Probably why it's the best colour in the format. And yeah, the fact that we were just drawing so many cards off the Rhystic Study here. A First Strike Haster swinging in towards us, +X, where X is the power of the exiled card. That's the token version, so nothing exiled under it, I don't think. Oh no, it still does get the buff, so it turns into an 8/8 with First Strike. So we'll just throw a token in the way of this. Dragon Broodmother already making use of itself, giving us chump blockers. Could have thrown the Dockside away as well, but I'm not sure that someone won't be able to reanimate that. Although I suppose to make the game more fun, I could give someone the option of reanimating Dockside and actually give them some mana. If we decide to go for the Cloth's Will, it will wipe out the Dockside though, so that will give them a chance. Black Market getting its third counter over to Gisa and Geralf, and we see Dragon Broodmother triggering again. We want as many tokens in play as possible, hence the reason I'm not devouring, because they'll trigger each Utvara Hellkite. And I'm going to get down that Terror of the Peaks next turn, so we may well be able to take out at least a couple of opponents. Master of Death is the next zombie. When it enters Surveil 2 and at the beginning of your upkeep, if it's in your graveyard, you can pay a life to return it to hand. So we'll see if we get another card from the wrist stick. Yeah, they pay for it this time, which is the correct thing to do. Surveilling into the bin, just a Lord of the Accursed. So now seeing the commander finally, that is Gisa and Geralf. And again, paying into the Ristic Study, that's good. The commander entering will mill our opponent 4 cards, so that's a land, Feed the Swarm, Endless Ranks of the Dead, and Havengul Lich. Yep, there is the Exquisite Blood, that's what I was worried about, so let's see here. I'm not sure if they can have us lose a life or not. They've got Menace, so they could probably turn everything in sideways and make it happen. I'm just going to go for... we can let the Exquisite Blood hit play, actually. They could have Counterspell backup, but we've got Fierce Guardianship for that, so... This is what I was saying, a combo player can just win out of nowhere, it doesn't matter how good our board looks. So let's see, I'll let them go through to the attack phase, because he's not going to attack me here, he's going to make use of his Menace to go straight down the middle, I would think, to maximise his chance of getting through. All he has to do here is hit someone, and it's not that one, it's Exquisite Blood. Whenever an opponent loses life, so they'll lose it in combat, you gain that much life, and whenever you gain that much life, an opponent loses that much life, so it just goes round in a loop. So, okay, just swinging in with the one creature, that will trigger the life gain on Varina. So then we go Cloth's Will, make sure I'm doing this right. Want to destroy artifacts and enchantments. So that opponent's scooping before he even knows what happens here. But I want to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 7 into X. I mean, we're probably taking players out next turn anyway, so it doesn't really matter that my opponent's scooped there. So X is 7 here, it's X to all the non-flying creatures, and we're going to blow up all our opponents' artifacts and enchantments because we've targeted all of them. The Maniform Hellkite is going to trigger, but we'll lose that token anyway, so it doesn't matter. Obviously we've got the Cyclonic Rift as backup as well. We've just had such a lucky game here, we've had absolutely everything we've needed. So it wasn't as one-sided as I thought it was going to be, because the Esper player could have had us there. Okay, doing the Gnawing Zombie on the stack. Yeah, that's one thing I didn't think of actually. Our opponent could have outplayed us there, but unfortunately we do have the Cyclonic Rift still. Like I said, we just had absolutely everything this game. So Maniform Hellkite triggering again to give us some big Dragon Illusion tokens. And the Cloth's Will going to be less relevant now at least, but yeah, we do get our old Gnawbone back this time because we got rid of the Cleric. We do get drained by the Gnawing Zombie, but that doesn't really matter because the combo is out of play. And then Varina still gets to loot here. So yeah, I felt bad for uploading this one at first, but now that we've just seen that interaction and it could have been easily snatched away from us, yeah, I'm thinking that it's actually an interesting game to show you all. These illusion tokens won't last through to our turn, unfortunately. So I don't know if we have our opponent or not. I will get down Terror of the Peaks just in case. And we need to be winning soon just so that we don't break the client here because we're going to be making a lot of treasures this turn. Let's go for the Terror of the Peaks and we'll get 2 of those of course. So Miirym triggers, gets the other one into play, and the original Terror of the Peaks will trigger, giving 5 damage over here. So I'll save those targets. And now I'm quietly confident that we can just turn everything into the right. It will make, just double check, the Utvara Hellkite, whenever they attack, we'll get some 6/6 dragons. So that means that we go into the right, make a bunch of 6/6 dragons, they all trigger for 12 damage apiece on the 2 Terror of the Peaks, and they all get pointed over here. So Goldspan Dragon triggers once a piece, we've obviously got 2 of those. And then Utvara Hellkite going to make us a bunch of 6/6s. And it may well be that the client crashes here, but I think it's safe to say that we've got the game, especially with free counter magic. Alright, managed not to crash it, so I'm just going to go through these Utvara Hellkite triggers one at a time. And I'll auto yield with the Terror of the Peaks. Alright, and as you can see, we've still got a lot of Utvara Hellkite triggers. It's only resolved twice, but thanks to the 2 Terror of the Peaks, we've already got rid of this player. So now it's a case of going after the Esper player. So on the 3rd resolution of the Utvara Hellkite, we'll get exactly enough on the Esper player, who is very graciously taking it. I was talking to him a little bit in the chat here, and yeah, he was a good sport about it. The Vampire player ends up throwing up the GGs as well, so There was a little bit of salt at first. Like I said, I put up in the chat, or in the lobby, where is it? Yeah, don't try too hard, no mass land destruction, etc. You go through waves on Magic Online of really strong players who want to play really cutthroat Magic. And so I just try to wheedle those players out and try and get a bit more of a casual game, but then you get into the debate of what's casual and what isn't. So like I said, at least one of those opponents thought I was being a bit too try-hard there, contrary to what I asked for in the game. But as I told them in the chat, it was just a god tier hand. I ended up with all the mana I wanted, a full grip, and then got loads of cards from the Rhystic Study as well. And at the very end, with the combo out of nowhere, even had answers to that as well, so it was just an absolutely perfect game for us. Unlucky for my opponents, could easily have got rid of me there, especially the Esper player. But luck was on my side today, so hopefully you all enjoyed this revisit to an older commander in Miirym. Massive thank you to the patrons for their constant support as ever. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.